Hi, welcome to Up Your Nerd Cred. Did you used to know everything that was happening in the Marvel and DC universes? Did finding out that some superheroes are from Marvel and some are from DC blow your mind? Has keeping track of everything that's happening there, and then realizing that we're only talking about the comics universes, not the cinematic ones, and all these different universes with their own multiversal crises have gotten a little bit out of hand? Well, don't worry. Up Your Nerd Cred is here to talk about the gods cosplaying as men, the men cosplaying as gods, and how much the cinematic universes are really leaving out. At the end of each episode, you'll hopefully know a little bit more than you did and can up your nerd cred. I'm your casual nerd host, Cece. Husband Guy has been making me so many latkes, and if I am 300 pounds next week, it's because I am full of latkes and applesauce. Not a sour cream
That sounds
girly,
like an
but
innuendo.
I mean, if he makes enough of them, we could have an innuendo in someone's
And
window.
I'm your expert, quotation expert, nerd host, AM Diaz, who's now freezing my nerdy butt off in my parents' home in Omaha, Nebraska for the holiday season, after having my flight delayed by 5+ hours.
You know, it's because you decided that you had to post that selfie of you being like, oh, look at me. I am in LA in the pool hanging out. God don't like ugly. And that's why you're cold.
To be
or the
fair, I
polar
had this
vortex.
planned already. I already had this planned ahead of time, this trip, before that photo, so...
Either way,
Nebraska. Los Angeles, come on.
Yeah, listen, there's a reason why I don't live in Nebraska anymore.
Yeah, no, my parents are always trying to drop the whole, hey, maybe you should move back. I'm like, yeah, and maybe hell should freeze over.
Yeah, my parents started trying to do that, but they were in San Francisco, so it's not quite as terrible, but as soon as I was in New York, they're like, all right, well, you can move back. And I'm like, I've been here 5 minutes. Come on. Yeah. Anyway, we are not here to talk about our parents, though, are we? This is an expert level 2-parter. Woo! So make sure you remember to go and listen to like the first part of it. But since we are here, like having a good time, what are we nerding out about this week? Now, as a reminder, listeners, you can nerd out about all kinds of things. It does not have to be just heroes and villains, okay? The Curious George Hanukkah book is really cute, but the man in the yellow hat is lighting candles, and he's not wearing a hat or a kippah or anything. What? Neil deGrasse Tyson apparently has been saying there's evidence that our universe is a black hole, and the Magic School Bus as a show still holds up. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Are you including the reboot with that?
Because you have Lily Tomlin and Kate McKinnon voicing the various Miss Frizzles, so this lady is canonically gay. A gay redhead who's obsessed with science. Obviously, I am into it. Come on. Anyway, what am I nerding out about? Honestly, okay. Look, I don't even watch Pluribus like Husband Guy does, right? I watch the after shows, but I was really pumped to see something that is a spoiler for the most recent / penultimate episode of the season. And because I don't know how caught up the listeners are, I'm just gonna say 2 things: the truth serum episode, and how much I love when sexual tension stop being tension and starts getting... What are you nerding out about, AM?
Well, I'm going to do a 2-part because one of them we can't really talk too much about. But the first one is Avengers Doomsday teaser trailer has finally dropped. Unfortunately, it is not dropped online, although some people have been, spoiling it.
Has it not dropped online or not dropped online officially?
Officially.
There we go.
Yeah, because Marvel and Disney have decided that they are going to show the teaser trailer, but only at the start of the new Avatar movie. And allegedly, there's going to be 4 variations of the trailer, so that way people keep having to go back to see Avatar to see the next trailer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, it's
I haven't seen
the
movie yet. I haven't seen the movie yet, but a bunch of my friends went to the premiere in Hollywood, and they said, it's a good movie, it's a good movie. It is also over 3 hours long. I am not doing that movie multiple watchings.
Look, I'm just saying, like, he's only got, like, he's got one more movie, and then after that, he's going to find, like, some Navi, whoever who's able to, like, get all of the different tribes together and, like, get them to all work together as, like, one singular thing. He's gonna, like, this one Navi is gonna have, like, the earth and the air and the fire and the water, and they're gonna be able to bend all of these tribes to their will.
Honestly, I thought you were going for a Captain Planet reference for a minute.
Oh, no, I, like, I'm saying that James Cameron keeps, like, cribbing all of the Avatar stuff, and then eventually he's just gonna end up, like, having to, like, reset and, like, go to Korra or something.
Fair enough.
So,
But
yeah.
yeah, so with the Avengers trailer, I have not seen it yet, but there is going to be a massive return that was not announced when they did the chair thing for, the new cast of the Avengers. So I think
There are
most people have an
arguments to be
idea.
made.
Yeah, I think most people, I don't want to spoil it, but I think most people know who's coming back. And
There are
it's not
arguments
just
to be
Robert
made
Downey
for
Jr.
and
as
against.
Doctor Doom. But
I
something
mean,
that can't.
Doctor Doom is the important character of this all, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, him coming back, like, that was the big to-do, but,
hmm
you know, I will say that
Yeah, I have a theory about why Doctor Doom looks like Tony Stark and doesn't look, and I think it has to do with, Doom, of course, being an alternate universe of Tony Stark.
what? They have variants who don't have the
I know,
same
right?
name?
Crazy.
Or they look different? That's crazy. That's
But
crazy.
yeah, but the thing that I can properly nerd about without spoiling it for people who haven't seen it yet,
Please?
the new Heated Rivalries TV show about
Oh my
two
god.
gay hockey players
I've
that
heard
has
so
been
much about this
blowing
show.
it's been blowing up social media. I've watched it, and it just kind of reminds me, like, the energy people have about, like, how excited they are about this show reminds
Mhm,
me of when Heartstoppers came out, except
mhm.
this is if the Heartstoppers had, like, almost hardcore gay sex scenes.
So the problem that I run into with heated rivalry is people will randomly be talking about stuff and they'll be like, "Yeah, so I was thinking about this thing about HR and how it blah blah blah." And I will be like, "What does this have to do with human resource? Oh, this has nothing to do with human resources." Oh my god. They're just being
I mean,
you would
unless your human resource needs a human resource of their own, I don't think there is.
I mean, that's you know what? I think that we have made so many puns that we may have to go wash our mouths out with soap or coffee, one of the two. So we're going to take a
Cheers.
quick break and we'll be back to up your nerd cred. Welcome back. All right. So, podcast listeners, last week we talked a bit about the Flashes in the form of Jay Garrick and Barry Allen. And both of those are like the Flashes that I had a clear idea of being the Flash. And as AM made very, very clear, I have so much Flash knowledge to catch up on, and Jay and Barry are just the beginning of the whole Flash family saga. Honestly, I cannot be sure that we're not going to have to, like, come back and do a third part in the future just to, like, catch whatever it is that we've missed, all right?
Mm,
So, we're
that is fair.
realistically speaking, we're going to have to talk about, though, how timelines are broken, and they're put back together, and they're twisted, and it's a full Mobius strip of adventure because
Funny
of
you
the
mentioned
time
Mobius.
haha, the Flash discovers that we aren't in a singular universe, but a multiverse. But there's only so much multiverse that any comics line can keep up with, okay? We've got Earth 1, we've got Earth 2, we've got Earth X, we've got Earth 99998765432 because people, honestly, they're not going to be able to keep up with which is which. So
Which?
while they're, which? While Barry Allen does discover that Jay Garrick exists on this other Earth, he also proved that as exciting as it is for these, worlds to vibrate next to each other. Somewhere along the lines, we're going to have a problem if we have too many of these universes vibrating because it can only expand so far before something is going to have to snap. How about Crisis on Infinite Earths? What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. The Crisis on Infinite Earths, that is honestly considered one of the most iconic storylines ever told by DC and possibly even comics in general. Just because this was the biggest, most all-encompassing story that DC had ever tried before. Because it
Yeah,
wasn't just
well,
like Earth 1 and Earth 2 or Earth 1 and Earth 3. No, this one was every single universe, every single character, a cast of billions, and how
mm,
all of that was going to be wiped away and given one last moment of focus.
well, I mean, if you have like a full, like, stellar mass star of stories, right? Eventually that's going to go supernova
Oh
and
yeah.
you're going to end up with a black hole
Yeah, because the
in
plan
which,
was that, they felt like there was too many characters, too many variations of these stories, and DC wanted to make it a bit more streamlined. So they allowed Mark Wolfman, George Perez, and several other creators to work on taking the entire DC universe and have a massive event where a creature called the Anti-Monitor decides to destroy all of existence. And the heroes of all of these different Earths and universe fight against him to try to survive. And it
yeah.
doesn't quite go as they hoped because the majority of the universes do get destroyed. And eventually, through time travel, alternate universes, magic, and science, and punching really, really hard, the universes are all destroyed, reconstituted into a new universe where characters from Earth 1 and Earth 2 all exist on one universe. The timeline is reset to where the past events did not happen as they were. This is supposed to make things a lot easier, but it also created a lot more issues for storytelling because with the change in timeline, things shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman did not exist during World War II era like they did with the Earth 2 heroes.
Oh.
Wonder Woman, in fact, is a recent addition. She comes to man's world in the 80s instead of like in the 90s. So all of her
Oh.
history with the Justice Society and her battles during the war never existed. She was never a secretary. And then Superman, he was the last son of Krypton, period. Supergirl and Krypto and all the other like variations of Kryptonians were wiped from existence. Superman was 100% alone for many years.
That's
And,
depressing.
Batman honestly got the easiest thing. So while his war stories got wiped away, he mostly remained the same. He was still, Batman still had Dick Grayson, but also created issues for other, like, the legacy characters. If Wonder Woman didn't exist until recently in the 1980s, how did Donna Troy grow up with the Teen Titans? Where did, like, the Supergirl fit into things? Hawkman and Hawkgirl, their entire legacy just kept getting rebooted and changed. From being like alien cops to being reincarnated Egyptian kings and queens or gods or something. I don't even know what their backstory is anymore.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. See, this is
Yeah.
why you end up with like these singularities of storytelling where like you have the information paradox and everything. And once again, I am stopping myself because I'm not allowed to talk about black holes unless it is in a specific black hole episode. But anyway,
Yeah,
so Barry has run himself to the
and
end
at
of
the center of the
existence.
yeah, because in the story, if there's a crisis event, the Flash is going to be in the middle of it. With the Crisis book, it actually started with Batman seeing Barry warning him of the crisis, like a vision of Barry who was lost in time. Because at this time, prior to the Crisis event, Barry had gone to the future to, I think, save his wife, Iris.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, that was his last hurrah before the Crisis event happened.
Okay, so the like kind of warning from the future thing, is this kind of like the vibes that they had in the Snyder cut or whatever, where like you have
It
like the
is
kind of like
100%.
ghost Barry? Okay.
Yes, 100%. That's where that was drawn from because Barry appeared from the future warning Bruce of the coming crisis. Now, in the movie, it was you gotta stop Superman. In this one, it
Yeah.
was, everything's gonna die. And Barry was basically captured by the anti-monitor and used as a battery to power his anti-monitor machine. And eventually he was managing to escape and ran through time and just kind of deteriorated and died. His costume would be later found by the villain, the Psycho Pirate, and then taken by Jay Garrick and our next hero we're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, we do have a situation where like the universe has collapsed and reformed and then we have somebody who has to take up the mantle. So what if we have it be somebody who's going to have massive imposter syndrome about it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are, of course, speaking about the
Wally
third
West.
Flash, Wally West. Yeah, he was Barry Allen's sidekick since the early Silver Age,
Yeah.
and he took on the moniker of Kid Flash.
Wait, let's back up and do his make sure that we have his formal introduction, right? We've got to make sure this is not some dude who just is popping up who happens to be related to that one guy because of that one lady he married, right? So this man's name he is the Flash, okay, and his full name is Wallace Rudolph West. Okay? So he was created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino. And he first appeared in The Flash number 100 in 1959, originally as Kid Flash. And now, podcast listeners, you will note the time frame of this first appearance is 1959. And remember that Barry Allen's initial appearance was 1956. Wally has been around the entire time, even if he was not the Flash in question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Wally was an interesting addition because where Batman had Robin, who he adopted, And Green Arrow had Speedy, who he adopted. With Wally, he was tangentially related to Barry because he was the nephew of Barry's girlfriend and future wife, Iris West. So he came along and he was just a massive Flash fanboy, just absolutely worshipped him, had a fan club and everything. And, Iris is like, oh, well, my boyfriend knows the Flash, so he can introduce you. And they, Wally's having the best day of his life. It's like, oh my God, it's a Flash, yay! And then Barry's telling him about how he got his powers. It's like, oh, struck by lightning found these chemicals. These same chemicals standing behind me. And what did you know? Lightning struck twice.
So this is the reason why we need OSHA. Like, why OSHA needed to be invented? Because what? What is this?
To be fair, they were safely stored where they needed to be. The fact that a lightning bolt randomly appears through the window and blows up things, it's kind of, even OSHA couldn't have anticipated that.
I mean, if it happened once before, maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, it's like one time is a weird accident. Twice is an insane coincidence.
All right, fine. Then I would have 2 nickels. But I will say that we're starting out with Kid Flash, and this kid is starting out with limitations. If I'd had something that happened, be weird that it happened twice. You've seen that one, right? Like if I had a nickel for every time, blah blah blah, I would have 2 nickels.
The Phineas and Ferb reference.
Yeah,
it's weird that it happened twice.
Twice, yeah, exactly. But we're gonna be starting out with like Kid Flash, right? And I mean, like this, he's starting out like he's got limitations. Okay, he's got speed ceilings. He doesn't really have a full handle on the energy, and sometimes it's not always great with like all the rescues that he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, with Wally, he was because he was a kid, he was supposed to be slower than Barry. He didn't have as many of like the abilities. We kind of saw it when they adapted Kid Flash to the Young Justice cartoon, where he like couldn't vibrate through walls, and in a race with Barry, he was always running short and stuff like that, which becomes really funny considering his progression as a character.
But
he also
you're
had
like next to the Flash, though, right? And like you're literally the junior version of him. Like it's gonna make you feel like all kinds of inadequate.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that he
actually... superhero and your uncle. That's a lot. It's hard to manage.
Yeah. And, during this time period, he ended up becoming a founding member of the Teen Titans, along with Robin Dick Grayson, Aqualad Garth, and, I was going to say Red Arrow, but no, Speedy, Roy Harper, and Donna Troy, Wonder Girl.
So this is just like a full baby version of all of like the adult heroes.
100%. It was like, these kids decided to join forces because there were crises and events that the adults just didn't focus on. So they decided that kids needed their own hero team. So they set up a base in Happy Harbor, and they answered calls and phones and letters from teens who needed help. And, they ended up forming their own team. It didn't last super long, but the thing about the Titans is, while they might have started as just like a kids club, they were a family, so they would always come back together and eventually would reform years later as the new Teen Titans with Cyborg, Beast Boy, Raven, and many others. And,
You forgot the Starfire.
Of course, Starfire.
She is the best character in there.
Interesting. Where we got in the show, she was like cute and adorable. In the comics, she was very sexually liberated, and also she'll cut a bitch. She had a bloodlust. She was just like, she was one of the sweetest people, but you pissed her off, and people gonna die.
See, there is a reason why Starfire and Sailor Moon are my favorites. Anyway, we're gonna go talk about Barry, though, okay? Because
Wally, you mean?
Or I'm sorry, no, Wally stepping into Barry's
shoes. Yeah, we'll
get
back into Barry. Yeah,
we will actually. Let's talk about Wally though.
Wally during the Titans era, especially during the New Titans, that was where the inadequacies really started to manifest for him because his speed powers started to dim and weaken, so he was like kind of losing his speed after a point. And honestly, he didn't really want to return to being a superhero with the New Teen Titans. He was kind of, I hate to say it, but brainwashed by Raven.
Ooh.
Yeah, Raven needed the Titans together to help fight her father Trigon. Wally was not interested, but Raven used her empathic powers to kind of coerce him to fall in love with her enough to join the team. Yeah.
Girly
and
pop,
this was also the era where we discovered that Wally was a Republican, a conservative. Yeah. It's so interesting reading that period and then reading everything about Wally afterwards, where it doesn't match. And
You know
I
what,
know it's
though?
because George
I think
Perez
that
and
he's
Mark
got a
Wolfman.
Hank Hill kind of vibe.
Well, that I think that it is, but they kind of were sometimes would play on the whole. He would make cracks about liberals versus Republicans sort of thing, which Hank Hill I don't think ever did.
No, that's fair.
And it's just like I say, it's very interesting that, and I know the reason they did it was because Mark Wolfman and George Perez wanted to show, you know, a variety of people, diversity of all kinds. So people with different races, genders. They wanted to have sexuality. They wanted to have like more sexuality in the books regarding people, but this was still the Comic Code Authority period.
Yeah, I don't think that we've gotten past the 70s or like the 70s or 80s much at this point, right?
Although, interestingly enough, one of the characters they wanted to have as queer is queer now officially, so that's a plus. Yeah, the character Jericho, they kind of were writing it queer coded, and then nowadays he is openly gay, I believe.
Yes, make it gay.
Yeah, but they also wanted to include different political opinions, so they had it to where, Wally was a conservative while a lot of the other characters were more liberal, but it always felt kind of like it didn't really match the character that Wally was or eventually would become, because they did write him a
Yeah.
bit more, conservative during the Titans era.
It is definitely interesting. And again, that's why I think that he's got kind of like a Hank Hill vibe because of the whole thing. All right, well, now that I have this new information, revising like your thoughts about things with the further information. Anyway, we are talking about how Wally West has, he's got an imposter syndrome thing, and he's there and figure out how to be something besides just Barry's little nephew that needs
Yeah,
to get
because
faster.
as we said, the crisis happened and Barry was dead. So Wally had to step up. He
Yeah.
something about the crisis event allowed his powers to be restored again properly, and he was able to take on the role of the Flash. But any younger sibling will tell you it's hard to step into a role that somebody else is famous for and will always be remembered for.
Well, fortunately, my older siblings were far enough apart from me in school that I didn't have to worry about them, but I know that you had a hard time with tech, okay? Your theater tech brother? Ugh.
Yeah.
Yes. We still talk about him to this day.
Yeah. Theater, my brother was the golden child of the theater department, and I was not him, so.
Yeah. But you know what? That's okay, because you don't need to be a part of the high school theater department. And Wally turned being fast into he really actually made the Speed Force into something that's not just like a nebulous kind of idea, but it's actually like a part of the Flash mythos and actually matters.
Yeah, no, it's during his time as the Flash, Wally discovered the Speed Force, a universal cosmic sort of energy of speed that powered not just him, but every speedster that has ever existed.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it's heavily implied that the Speed Force, on some level, is sentient as well.
Okay, so then my theory that the Speed Force is really about taking something that you believe in and kind of running with it is actually taking something that you believe in and go fast with it.
Yep, and yeah, it's even though Wally had so many imposter syndrome feelings about this, he basically became the Flash, because Barry stayed dead for, I think, 20-something years.
Yeah, I mean,
from the
that's
80s
the only
until
way
the early. Yeah, from the 80s until the early 2000s, Barry Allen was gone, and Wally was the Flash. So
you can't have imposter syndrome if nobody else is there to back you up. If you are the person.
Yeah, and if you watched the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoons, the Flash that entire generation of kids grew up with was Wally West. None of them knew who Barry Allen was. That's the reason why when you said people think of Barry Allen, most millennials probably do not.
Maybe I'm just old then, because we watched Grant Gustin then. We watched, that one person that we don't talk about anymore. It's not like Barry as a Infinite Earth Crisis is irrelevant Flash.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying it's Wally was the Flash. The truth is, a lot of what Barry has become famous for in recent years, the Flash or the Speed Force and stuff like that, a lot of it he stole from Wally.
I mean, that's what older siblings do to their younger siblings all the time. I guess. I
feel like we're taking a lot of shot at siblings in this episode.
We are taking shots at siblings, and I just want to say that Iris West has siblings who have kids, and they matter. But we're going to sit there and talk a little bit about some of Iris West's siblings' kids. But, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, right? Because we do have, like, at some point in the future, Barry does come back 20 years later. And, I mean, like, the Flash fandom is going to have, like, some friction
Yep.
because of the Speed Force, of course, because speed, friction. Anyway, but no, how do you keep it from just being like, oh, good, Daddy's home and you can stop play acting, right? By making sure that Daddy is part of the family. With Granddad and the kids being involved too. Let's not get it. So Wally West is who moves the Flash family from just like a loosely assorted group of people who happen to have access to powers into like an actual family. So
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Barry did that too because he did marry Iris, and they had Wally as part of the team. But during Wally's era as Flash, that's where the family started to really expand and become more defined by
yeah,
family. And yeah, it's like, uh, we'll get into Barry's return in a bit,
yeah.
but during that period, Wally did marry Linda, and they did not,
Linda
expand
Park.
themselves. Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I said, Linda.
I just wanted to make sure that we had her last name in there so that she's not
Oh
just
yeah,
like
but
an
you mentioned her
individual.
earlier.
Oh, did I? Okay. Well, yeah, Linda Park.
Yeah,
Sorry. Anyway, please
but
continue.
yeah, Wally and Linda, they actually did not have kids until Wally was being written out of stories for a little bit.
Hmm.
Because around the time of uh the Infinite Crisis event,
Mm-hmm.
uh Wally and Linda were pregnant, and Linda had just given birth. But
Mazel.
then a new crisis was happening with an alternate universe version of Lex Luthor, Superboy Prime, the whiny ass fanboy character, and the return of the Anti-Monitor too. But not quite the return of him, the return of his corpse. Because after the previous Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, and the Earths were all condensed into one universe, the few survivors were the Golden Age Superman, the Golden Age Lois Lane, an
Mm-hmm.
alternate universe of Lex Luthor's son, Alexander Luthor, and
Lex.
Superboy Prime, who was basically the Superboy of our world. If a kid from our world turned out to be Superman, but was aware of all the comic continuity of Superman.
Oh.
Yeah, and, they left after the crisis and went into a pocket dimension where they could still watch the main DC universe as things unfolded.
That,
And just kind of
that's
like,
kind of creepy.
well, it was kind of like they were living in a heaven dimension, essentially. So, they could just like live their lives, be happy together, but still check in on things and be like, oh, I hope everything's going okay. Unfortunately, every time they checked in, shit started getting worse.
Also, I don't need people from heaven checking in on me in general, okay? I get followed to the bathroom enough as it is.
Yeah. But the thing is, they watched we were the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. Shit was getting fucked up in the DC universe. We had the death of Superman. We had Batman getting his back broken. Wonder Woman getting killed and being brought back as a goddess of truth. Elongated Man's wife was brutally murdered. And
Sue Dibney, we're going to end up having to have like just a whole, like, we're just going to end up having just a
yeah,
whole reel of like, here's a list of people who died in the DC verse during like, Crisis.
yeah. And the survivors from the previous crisis were like, the fuck? And they were furious. They were just like, we gave them this perfect world, and they're just fucking it up. They're making it worse every single time. The heroes are acting like villains. The villains are, getting even more demonic and evil. And so they decided, start over. Let's wipe
Wait,
everything away and redo the universe.
are they like the
Earlier.
precursors to the Matrix?
They wanted it back to like what they deemed was the ideal time. So like the 1950s through the 1970s universe.
We'll make comics great again.
And, during this, Superboy Prime attacked our Superboy, Connor Kent, and killed a bunch of Teen Titans during a huge melee. And Wally and Jay Garrick and another young Flash speedster, who we'll talk about in a bit, went up against Superboy Prime and pulled him into the Speed Force. Wally, he's pushing Superboy Prime into the Speed Force, but he's starting to dissipate, similar to what happened to Barry.
Mm-hmm.
And so he speeds back to Linda and the babies, and he's just like, I don't think I'm coming back. I'm being pulled, and this is goodbye. I'm so sorry. And Linda's like, fuck that shit, grabs him, pulls him in for a kiss, and her, Wally, and the babies get sucked into the Speed Force too.
My God. Okay, look, I was already going to make a comment about, like, if you want a nice family man, if you want, like, somebody who is monogamous, get you a Flash, because once they find their person, they're locked in.
Oh, yeah. They're a lightning bolt. They are. And that goes
That
both
is an
ways.
aggressive level of locked in.
Oh yeah, no, it's like the wives are just as committed as the husband and the because they're just
I'm
like they're like, no, I am. You are not leaving me behind again. And so
You know
they
what? Joan, Iris, and Linda need to get together and just like have picnics and just be like, our men are crazy. They are the fastest men in
oh they
like
do.
creation and are never on time for anything.
Oh no, the wives have like a community.
Good.
But yeah, but during that time, Wally is off the table again as a Flash. He's believed possibly dead, but he's actually just kind of like in this Speed Force future thing with Linda and the babies who,
They
you
became
know,
one with the Speed Force.
kind of, it was very confusing on what it was because they existed and they lived their lives. And it was kind of like, I'm not sure if it was the future or the Speed Force. It was very confusing. It was very, I don't think all the writers knew what they were doing with Wally at that point.
At
But
that
during that
point,
time, yeah, because, I
I'm just
mean,
saying. So
but
anyway, though, if we're going to talk about family, though, right? Like it's important that we talk about a certain time displaced redhead that AM has been wanting to talk about, like for a bit. It just means that there's
time for.
so now the Flash family. There's a lot happening with the family apparently, like since
Mhm.
they're all getting sucked into the Speed Force and becoming one with it or whatever. And if we're gonna sit there and have them also like, are we in the future? Are we in the past? Like if we're gonna live like the time displacement, then we need to talk about actually a certain time displaced redhead that AM has like, talked about at the end of the last episode and has probably been waiting this entire time to talk about now.
Yeah. We are talking about one of the most chaotic members of the Flash family,
Mm-hmm.
Bart Allen, aka Impulse, aka Kid Flash number 2.
Yeah, his let's do his formal introduction and then I'm gonna let AM just tell you all about this person because let me tell you, he started to earlier and I'm just like, no, you have to save this because I have no idea what you're talking about. All right, so his legal name, of course, is Bartholomew Henry Allen II because his parents didn't like him either, I guess.
Well, in this case, it was more of a legacy thing. It's like,
And his parents didn't like him either. Like they like, ooh, I had this name. What if I give this name to my kid?
honestly, though, it's like with Wally's parents, we didn't even talk about his parents. There's some family issues in that family. Bart's family actually really did love him.
It's nice, but I mean, like the West family is fairly prolific because they keep popping out a bunch of nephews for
Oh,
Iris
yes,
to
they
be
do.
like having with like Flash kids. Anyway, Impulse, Kid Flash, later the Flash, Bart II. He was created by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo and first appeared in The Flash number 91 in 1994. And this child is so when we talk about family, the Flash family, we're not kidding. Because this is Barry Allen's grandson from the future who was sent back in time because his accelerated aging made it impossible for him to survive because he grows up out of sequence, his body, his brain develops like differently and faster than emotional regulation can keep up. I mean, like, look, you have the Flash who is like ADHD personified, and then you have ADHD personified plus continuity is like for funsies.
Yeah. And also, it's like, the thing is, while he was in that hyper aging period, to try to get his mind developed with the body, they put him into a virtual reality system where he was basically just playing video games since he was a baby. The problem with this is Bart developed this disconnect on his own mortality because anytime he died in the video games, he would just respawn like
Ooh.
Mario.
Ooh,
And
that's
as a
not good.
result, he didn't quite process risk and danger like other people would.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and this was part of the reason why his grandmother, Iris West Allen, thought, all right, this kid needs training and education. So she decided to send him back in time to get training by the Flash of the modern era, a certain Wally
Yeah.
West.
And see, like, now when Usagi sends, like, Chibiusa back in time, like, to go train with Sailor Moon, everyone's like, why do you do this? But when Iris does it, everyone's just like, oh, yeah, Iris, that totally makes sense. Send your kid back to be trained by, like, your man in the past.
Well, to be fair, they
Or
weren't
your
like
friend
trying
in
to
the
hide it like Usagi and Chibi.
fair.
You know,
There will probably be a Sailor
Bart
Moon
has
episode in
no
the
filter,
future.
so he's like, "Hi, I'm the Flash's grandson, and I'm here to get trained by you. Hi."
Okay, so basically Chibiusa, but, like,
On
slightly
cocaine.
faster. So,
Oh,
please
100%.
continue.
But yeah, Bart comes back, and you know, Wally loves him because he has family. But the thing is, Wally doesn't entirely like having him around.
Hmm.
Uh, basically, what was it that you had said? Imagine irritating younger sibling.
And they can keep
Uh,
up with you when you're trying to ditch you? Or when you're trying to
exactly.
ditch them? Yeah.
Yeah, because Bart, it was very energetic, had no impulse control, would react just randomly. He actually got his code name because Batman made a crack about him being so impulsive.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, Adderall works for a lot of people. Maybe he should have considered it, but, you know.
His body would have processed it too fast. That's a problem.
I can't imagine the amount of meth that he might have had to do to, like, actually, like, have Adderall kind of work for him.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like, because the problem with Flash bodies is their body metabolizes alcohol and drugs so quickly that it doesn't really work well for them. So I can't imagine that Adderall would survive more than like 3 seconds in his system before
Okay,
he
but
was back.
imagine how useful he would be for those 3 seconds.
He would be popping Adderall like Tic Tacs.
Yeah, so we've got this kid who is, like, the definition of, like, gotta go fast, and, like, you know, if you have a whole bunch of relativistic speed situations happening that, you know, kinda have to be incorporated eventually, you know, aging becomes an adventure when you can actually make the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs,
Hmm.
because that is a measure of distance, not speed. So, in case, like, so we know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and like I said, even though Bart was sent back to be trained by Wally, Wally had his own life to live. He was, had his own dramas and all that stuff. So he couldn't really give Bart the focus that Barry had given him, unfortunately.
Is this
And
before
also,
or after he and his kids and wife were, like, sucked into and then popped back out of the
well
Speed
before.
Force?
Well
Okay,
before. Bart was introduced years before all the events of Infinite Crisis.
just checking.
So what happened was Wally asked for the help from another speedster that he knew.
Mhm,
Max Mercury, the speed guru. Max was an older Golden Age hero who had a very zen approach to super speed,
mhm.
and it's heavily implied that he has actually been multiple speedsters throughout time.
Okay. So this is
So,
kind of like how in the Eternals, Makari is like the speedster, and now they're
mhm,
just like in DC. They're just like, what if we just make everybody Mercury as well and have them go fast?
kind of, yeah. And, Max was tasked with not only training Bart to use his powers, but also how to get a bit more zen and control over his speed and his behavior and his personality. Unfortunately, this caused a lot of conflict. It's a good thing that Max was already white-haired because he would have been white-haired by the end of his time with Bart. But Max
Yeah.
acted as a mentor and father figure to Bart. He helped essentially raise him, and even though Bart could get very annoyed by how much of a stick in the mud Max was, they loved each other. They would go to bat for each other, and Bart was always concerned about him. Because there were several times where Max went missing or was gone entirely, and Bart was broken every single time that happened.
Aw.
Because the life of a superhero. But like Max and Bart lived with Max's daughter, and Max got him a puppy for Christmas one year. So, you
Oh,
know,
puppy for Hanukkah. Well, no, I mean, I technically had already had the puppy, but I had a puppy for Hanukkah this year, and
yeah.
that's it's the best.
Yeah, so and the thing was the stuff that he did, like the puppy and that actually helped Bart. He started to calm down a little bit compared to what he was before. And during this era, that was also when he joined his first superhero. Well, no. Actually, he joined his second superhero team because his first superhero team was a replacement group of Teen Titans after
Okay.
Nightwing and Starfire had left the team and Arsenal had taken over. Roy Harper had taken over as the Titans leader under government supervision, and he built his
Yeah.
own new team comprised of the Matrix Supergirl,
Mhm.
the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, Damage, the grandson of a JSA character, and there were a few others, but also Bart Allen as Impulse. That was his first team, but
Mhm.
this team was not a family. It was just a bunch of people who were trying to work together and just didn't mesh well.
Yeah.
Oh, Donna Troy was also part of that group. I forgot. But eventually that team broke up, and then he joined his first real team that actually became important to him going forward, and that was Young Justice.
Okay, so that one's Robin, Superboy, like
Yeah,
a lot of
they were the
the.
three that started after
Okay.
an event where basically all the adult heroes were uh like the Earth was split into two worlds, a
Mhm.
world of adults and a world of children. And anybody under the age of 18 existed on the children Earth, and then the other heroes and adults were on the other one. And this was because a kid got a magical genie and made a wish because he was pissed at his parents.
So do you teleport on your 18th birthday?
Yeah, if you turned 18, you would disappear off the kid's Earth and appear on the other Earth. This actually was adapted for the Young Justice TV show, but they used Clarion the Witch Boy as the catalyst.
So what happens if you find out that, like, somebody fudged your dates?
You would have existed on the other Earth already. You've been like, fuck.
Like, people be lying about their age all the time.
Oh, yeah. So Impulse and Robin and Superboy worked together to defeat the Kid and the Genie, and they decided to create their own team. But, unlike the Teen Titans who took it very seriously, Young Justice was Robin tried to take everything seriously. He became the leader because he was a natural born leader, Tim Drake.
Well, he knows what matters. He just doesn't care after a while.
Tim was a lot more because of the fact that he was more insecure about his abilities as Robin, because he was always comparing himself to Dick and Jason. He tried really hard to be like the stoic leader character, trying to take a page out of Batman's thing, but he was still a teenager. And they were more
Imposter syndrome is kicking everyone's ass
out.
here.
Well, I mean, if you're a legacy character, that's going to happen.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, Bart and Superboy also had anxiety about being the next generation because, Superboy was expected to become Superman one day, even though he couldn't age. And Bart knew that he was eventually going to have to take on the mantle of Flash himself. Hint, hint.
And Chibi Usa looks like she's 9 years old despite the fact that she's 900. What's the point?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We are going to do a Sailor Moon episode in the future, I promise.
But during that time with Young Justice, the team expanded. We got Wonder Girl, Arrowette, Secret, Empress, Kid Lobo, the Ray, and Red Tornado, and Snapper Car, and a whole bunch of, friends and associates who joined the team. But eventually that team disbanded after a really shitty storyline called Graduation Day.
Ew.
And that led Bart and Robin and Superboy and Wonder Girl to get recruited by Cyborg to join the next generation of Teen Titans.
Yay!
So this was where, after what happened in Graduation Day, Cyborg decided that the new generation of heroes needed more structure because they were working independently on their own, and they were an effective team, but they were still just like kids just hanging out, not taking up the role of a hero as seriously as they needed to.
Okay.
So, they recruited those members of Young Justice, and Impulse was still Impulse. He was energetic and crazy and would jump into things without thinking, but he was also very much getting dismissed, and it was starting to really affect his self-esteem.
Well, yeah.
Which was unfortunate because of the fact that, Wally had discovered the Speed Force and become extremely proficient with it. Bart was faster than him. Bart was a better speedster than him. So, with Wally, if he read something, it would only stay in his brain for a few minutes before he would forget it because, his mind would move too fast and he just couldn't absorb the information. Bart, on the other hand, had an eidetic memory. So anything he read, saw, and whatnot, he could pick up like that. And it would retain in his brain. Yeah.
That's a challenge.
But the thing is, again, people dismissed him, including their first villain as the Teen Titans. Who we initially thought was Wade Wilson, the Deathstroke, the Terminator.
Was that the Will Smith didn't play that person, right? That was
no. You're thinking Deadshot, Deathstroke.
Okay.
If you watch the Teen Titans cartoon, it was Slade. Not Wade.
Okay.
Not
Slade
Wade.
Wilson?
Wade. Slade Wilson. Yeah, Slade Wilson.
Okay.
Wade
Wilson is
Deadpool
Marvel.
instead.
Wade Wilson is Marvel. Slade Wilson is DC.
Wade Wilson is a parody of Slade Wilson. The funny thing is, he was created as a parody character.
I completely believe it.
Yeah, but so Slade went after the new Titans team, saying that kids shouldn't be superheroes.
Not an unreasonable position, but okay.
We would find out later that while that was the body of Slade Wilson, he was actually possessed by his dead son, Jericho, a.k.a. Joey Wilson, a former member of the Teen Titans, who had the ability to possess people. Yeah.
You can just leave a job. You don't have to go back and do all this. You can just leave.
Well, with Joey, because of the fact that he could possess people, he had possessed so many people that their psyches had started to cause him to have, essentially brain damage, and he started to really, he snapped at one point and became a supervillain, which is sad because he was the sweetest character. He was this artist with really kind eyes who was unfortunately mute because his throat got slashed as a child, and so he could only communicate with sign language. And, he was a pacifist. He was sweet and kind, and he would just wanted to help people, but all of his thing of possessing bad people started to affect him.
Okay,
but anyways...
Yeah.
Joey/Slade targeted Bart, and basically implied that he was a joke, that he was, worthless, and shot him point blank in the knee, shattering his kneecap.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
the problem with a speedster is their body metabolizes and heals quickly, but because the kneecap was shattered, it was very difficult for them to do replacement surgery or anything like that because it wasn't like healing
Yeah, that's
properly.
because I'm like that's what I'm thinking about. I'm just like his entire body should like come back together pretty quickly. But if your kneecap is like in 5 places,
Exactly, because it was point blank with a shotgun, so that was not going to heal normally. So they had to do like a replacement kneecap, which was really difficult because his body metabolized the painkillers. So he was in excruciating pain while they were cutting into his knee, trying to remove the pieces, and it kept healing up while they were trying to do that. Oh no, it
but I
was, and
imagine
but the
there's a
thing was,
certain mental clarity that he hit though after that.
exactly, that's what happened. He realized just how he needed to start taking things more seriously. And so after the surgery, he immediately disappeared out of the hospital. And so Superboy, Robin, and Wonder Girl go looking for him, and they track him down to the San Francisco library, where they suddenly notice that all the books are shifting. They're all moving around. Bart was moving at top speed, super speed, reading every single book in the library and retaining
On top
all of
of
that
that
information
eidetic memory,
on top of that eidetic memory. So he became an expert in basically every single field of study in the course of like a couple of hours. But
mm,
unfortunately, a problem with that is even though Bart had all the knowledge, he still didn't have the maturity. So he still he would spout information that was important, but at the same time, he wasn't really he was still impulsive. But he also
oh,
took
it's
this opportunity to shed the impulse identity, and he
that makes
took on the
sense.
identity of Kid Flash instead.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Trying
And
to like show that you have grown up some, and
exactly, because he thought people would take him more seriously if he was Kid Flash than Impulse.
yeah.
And this led into what we were speaking about earlier, the Crisis, Infinite Crisis. And he was one of the speedsters helping against Superboy Prime.
Hmm.
Him, Wally, Max Mercury, Jesse Quick, Johnny Quick, and even Barry Allen all came
Hmm.
out of the Speed Force to pull Superboy Prime in.
So wait, everybody had been like had kind of like run off out of the universe was like actually like had been like incorporated into the Speed Force, and so when they're trying to shove Superboy into the Speed Force, everyone else kind of like rematerialized to continue doing the Speed
Yeah,
Force
so some
pull.
of them who were lost in the Speed Force or dead or something like that manifested enough to help pull him in, while Max, Wally, and Bart pushed him in.
Got it.
And
Okay.
Wally disappeared along with Linda and the babies.
Hmm.
Max and them got pulled in. Bart was the last one remaining, and then he
Okay.
disappeared into the Speed Force too. But then he remanifested wearing Barry Allen's Flash costume,
Bum bum.
and he was aged about 5 to 7 years. So now he
Okay.
was an adult. Wally was gone. The Flash is dead. Long live the Flash. Bart Allen.
All right.
Bart's
I mean,
tenure, however, with the Titan or with as the Flash was very short lived because in the lead up to Final Crisis and during the event 52,
mhm.
Bart was killed as the Flash by a group of rogues who
Mm.
generally do not kill, but something in them snapped because they were being led by Bart's alternate
Wait,
doppelganger inertia.
they were killed. Like he was killed by Flash's rogues, the ones who we
The
just
Flash rogues,
established,
yes.
who are in it
Yeah.
for the love of the game, not for just like mayhem, murder, and stuff like that.
Yep. They killed him, and it's implied that they were influenced by Bart's basically doppelganger, like his anti Flash, his reverse
Okay,
Flash,
we have
named
not
Inertia.
gone into any of the reverse flashes, but the reverse flash is
Oh
a
yeah.
whole to do. So like I'm not kidding when I say that we're gonna have to do like maybe a follow-up episode because we have so much still.
Yeah, there's
Anyway,
so
please
much
continue.
mythology. But yes, Bart was killed by Inertia and a handful of the rogues,
Hmm.
including like Pied Piper, Captain Cold, the Trickster, Heatwave, and
Gorilla Grog.
no, he was not there. He's not one of the
Okay.
rogues.
Okay, look, I worried,
Yeah.
okay? He's got a stupid name, but
But Bart was killed, and at the moment that he died, Wally, Linda, and the babies came back to Earth. And the first thing that Wally felt was when Bart died, his energy and his speed went to Wally.
so now Wally's got like that good fast.
His powers increased with the death, and he is pissed. And so he
Also,
goes
I just want to
after.
check. I just want to check. The Speed Force isn't like something like, the Jet Li movie, the one where like, it's just like divided amongst all of the different speedsters out there,
It
right?
kind of is. It kind of is, but kind of isn't. So the Speed Force is infinite, but a speedster can steal the full energy from another speedster and
Okay.
add it to themselves.
All right.
And in this case, it essentially applied that Bart gave his energy to Wally when he died. Because Bart could feel Wally returning, and Bart could feel, Wally could feel Bart dying. So Bart just kind of gave that energy over.
Okay, so this is like Genu deciding that he wants to become Rumi's sword, and then Rumi just going like, ah!
Kinda, yeah. And Wally gets revenge for Bart. He grabs Inertia, runs him across the planet multiple times, furious, and Inertia is poking the bear. It is like saying that Bart died like a bitch. And Wally decides to do the worst thing he could imagine. He takes Inertia's speed and puts him in a forever frozen state. So he's still like aging and moving, but at an impossibly slow pace. Like 1 second of movement for him will take like 1,000 years.
I have no mouth and I must scream.
And he put Inertia in the Flash Museum, posed him as a statue staring at Bart Allen, a statue of Bart Allen. So that way Inertia would forever watch the thing he would never be. A hero.
Yeah.
Wally can hold a grudge. And so Wally took
I was a petty bitch. Oh my God.
Yeah. And Wally stepped back as the Flash. This would also be, again, leading up to the Final Crisis event.
Yeah.
And even though Wally was back, soon after, somebody else came back.
Bum.
Barry Allen.
God damn it.
Hey there, podcast listeners. AM clearly was not kidding when he said that this would probably be a three-parter. Again, I thought there was only maybe one or two flashes. We clearly have had a lot more to go. So, we're going to speed forward to our thrilling conclusion for this week, and then you can look forward next week to hearing even more about the Flash family and how it's much more expanded than just the three guys. See you then.
So, welcome back to our thrillingest conclusion yet so far, I hope. But it's important as we're like wrapping up and like thinking about the Flash family. It's worth like taking a moment because it is the holiday season. It's Christmas time. Family matters. And I think that it would be really, really fun to see the entire Flash family sitting around a tree, although there does exist the prospect that somebody might be like, oh, I forgot a gift for you. Let me run 3 years in the future and grab something and then come back. But I'm sure
I feel like they've done that.
Somebody has done that. Like, oh, I forgot something. I got to go get it. They had to have.
Yeah,
right.
I can imagine that's happened.
All right. Well, while we're thinking about all of the things that people have dropped off of their own calendars and such, let's talk about some of the things that should be on your calendar coming up. All right. So, going forward, we have the Age of Apocalypse event beginning in X-Men Alpha #1 by Scott Lobdell, Mark Waid, Roger Cruz, and Steve Epstein, and that's 12/12/94.
I have that story.
Oh, the original Secret Wars event came to an end in Secret Wars #12 by Jim Shooter and Mike Zeck on 12/25/1984. So, happy Christmas to somebody, I suppose. We also have on 12/27/1955, Journey into Mystery #33 features what is, I think is Steve Ditko's first story for Marvel. And
very cool.
Happy birthday to Peter Parker. Turns out that man is a Capricorn and his birthday is December 20,
That actually surprises me that he's a Capricorn.
I mean, he works really, really hard.
Yeah, but he's also not as stoic as most Capricorns are supposed to be.
Well, he might have like an aggressively like weepy moon sign, if he's got like a Cancer moon or something, or a Pisces moon. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That might do it actually. So, but, the important part is that Peter Parker is very cool. And honestly, if we're talking about Capricorns and the stuff that they would do you really think that a Capricorn would sacrifice themselves for the entirety of humanity without a 17-point plan about how it is that humanity can actually get their shit together as well? I don't think so. I'm just saying, like, we're celebrating.
If they're just tired, they're like, all right, I'll sacrifice myself.
I mean, you know what? I contend that man was a Pisces. He's got too many feelings and not enough telling people that they were dumb.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. He just doesn't feel Capricorn-y, but
listeners, we've come to the end of our podcast. I know, you are devastated, right? Don't worry, our next episode is going to be coming out next week. We are taking New Year's Eve off. Yes. Of course, if that one's not fast enough, you're always welcome to listen to this one again or join the Patreon.
Nerd Cred takes time to build.
But, if you can convince a Capricorn to sacrifice themselves for, like, the entirety of the world, and you can convince a Flash to sit down once in a while, honestly, you can convince anybody to do anything.
We've got an Instagram, Up Your Nerd Cred pod.
I'm at Kiracy Davis, CIRACDAVIS.
And I am AMDiazArt, AMDIAZART. And we're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and working to expand our reach.
If you have a burning question that you want us to tackle so that you can up your nerd cred, make sure you like, subscribe, leave comments, and if we pick your question, we'll shout you out.
Also, we have launched our Patreon, so feel free to check that out and, patron us.
Yes. So also, please make sure to get your friends to like and subscribe to the podcast, and your family, and the coworkers that you trust not to be weird about listening to the same podcast as you. And actually, like, your dentist, you should probably talk to them.
And good night, everybody.